My name is Caroline Labouchere. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Today we are going to be speaking to William Gaunitz. He is a trichologist and will be enlightening us just a little bit more about hair loss. I found you on Instagram and I was immediately taken by your page and thought, right, this is somebody I have to speak to about hair loss. Tell me a bit about yourself, if that's okay.
Certainly. I mean, starting from the beginning, I started losing my hair when I was 17, 18 years old. I was at an all-guys military school at the time. I was very conscious of my appearance, mainly because, when you're in military school, a lot of the guys are going to tell you when you're losing your hair. And that was something that they were like, oh, look, you're going bald already. And I'm like, oh, that's too bad. So with the family history that I had, started using minoxidil, and actually early on that worked fairly well for me. But by the time I was 20, I was actually going to school. I had a career as a chemical representative, and I really started to lose my hair again. And it didn't matter what I did. I did Propecia, minoxidil, basically anything that somebody told me, a physician told me that would work, all the research, none of it worked. And I actually my hair started getting a washed out gray color. And I had these really irritated, scaly patches on my scalp. And literally there was nobody that could help me. So I did an exorbitant amount of research. I started becoming actually a trichologist accidentally because I wanted to know how to fix this for myself. And I ended up importing a laser from a company in Australia. And that low-level laser therapy device, we're going back, the year 2000, 2001, was almost unheard of. And that was actually the first thing that worked for me. So I started using this low-level laser therapy device, and my scalp started to feel better. My hair started growing back. Long and short of it was, no one was doing that in the United States. And I had all this knowledge, and, trying to become a trichologist for myself, I decided to pivot, switch careers, and go full board into hair loss. And that was almost 20 years ago. So here we are 20 years later. I've had clinics all over the United States. I've worked with A-list celebrities, pro athletes, politicians, you name it, I've seen it. And I developed the Gaunitz Trichology method over the time that I had been treating clients. And I developed a whole product line revolving around my philosophy, which is dealing with the root cause and understanding why your hair is falling out, because everybody is an individual. And if you treat everyone the same, you're not going to get the same results. So you have to dial into the individual's idiosyncrasies. So that's what I do now. That's why my product line is so successful worldwide. I mean, we're on 5 continents. We, put out tens of thousands of units on a monthly basis, and we're growing at 120% per year, year over year. And it's because it works. And that's now where I'm at, is really trying to help people understand why it works, because people don't know why this product works over something else, or why, one product may work for them and another doesn't. So educating people on a scale, mass scale, is really my predominant focus at this point. So that's the really short answer.
Was your hair loss hereditary?
So I actually have 2 forms of clinical hair loss. So I have male pattern loss, which is inherited from my father's side. So everybody says it comes after your mother's side. It doesn't. It comes from wherever up the genetic family tree that you have. And I remember I actually was reflecting recently on a situation that somebody was telling me how they had their hair thinned out when they were a kid. And, now they're, in their 40s and they're losing their hair. And I was thinking to myself, I remember when my mom used to take me to the mall when I was, 8 or 9 years old to get my hair cut. And they were always thinning out my hair. And the woman said, oh, you have beautiful hair. I hope you never lose it. And I remember it's the first time I thought about it. And my mom said, oh, no, our side of the family has amazing hair. It's going to be fine. And then, 10 years later, it was dumping off my head. So it's whatever you can do genetically, it's how the dice was rolled. But collectively, I also have a condition which is very rare. It's called diffuse alopecia areata. Most people know about alopecia areata, which is the circles, which my mother has, and that is also marginally genetic. But I have the diffuse version, which actually goes right through the middle of the head, as well as other aspects of the scalp. And when I'm stressed, when I am allergic to something, which I have some sensitivities, then it will actually start causing just this mass dumping of hair. So I had COVID. I started losing it after COVID. I actually, after each vaccine shot, the trauma of that, I lost a little bit of hair. But it's par for the course. You can only do so much for traumatic inflammatory hair loss. Male pattern losses and female pattern loss is completely manageable. Once you treat it, you honestly shouldn't have to change your routine that much, because blocking the hormone dihydrotestosterone impacting the hair that's actually being lost is very easy. And there's a lot of different ways to do that now. So pharmaceutically, you can do it herbally. There's so many different safe paths. You can do it topically, internally. That's easy. The problem is in nutritional hair loss. So there's 3 reasons for hair loss: DHT, nutrition, and inflammatory. DHT and nutrition, piece of cake. You can fix those all day, every day. It's no problem. Inflammatory hair loss is a moving target. That is something that is individualized. And so for me, the inflammatory hair loss or inflammatory condition that I have is diffuse alopecia areata, and I can control the response, but I can't control that I actually get the response. So I, might lose 5% of the hair that I would have lost if, it was uncontrolled. So, and that's just, again, there's so many different inflammatory scalp conditions. There's so many stressors impacting our body on a regular basis that if you are a candidate for inflammatory hair loss, you have to really treat it constantly. And it is a little bit of an ongoing moving target.
So if you start to treat it using anything in your hair or orally, you have to do it for the rest of your life. If you stop, it stops.
So, that does not apply to nutritional hair loss, because obviously if you get your nutritional numbers up, so your vitamin D3 is up, your iron is up, your zinc is up, folate's in the proper location, then that can remain static, assuming you're dieting properly. For inflammatory hair loss, you may have bouts of inflammatory hair loss. Telogen effluvium is an inflammatory hair loss, so you may get a trigger like a car accident or general anesthesia or childbirth, and that is temporary. And so you can come off of your treatment when it's temporary. If it's an ongoing thing, then obviously you do have to treat it ongoing. And hormonally related loss, you absolutely have to treat, because that is a genetic predisposition and you must treat that ongoing. If you remove the positive stimulus, you're going to remove that response. And I got my start in Arizona. So the weather patterns, from a very severe heat situation and dust, I imagine are similar, because the haboobs that we used to get in Arizona, the heat of 120 degrees, 10 days in a row and 100 days over 110, that can very much create an inflammatory response. I saw more inflammatory hair loss in Phoenix, Arizona than I have in any other part of the United States. So I'm assuming there is a tremendous amount of nutritional loss as well as inflammatory loss, and we can help with that.
Excellent. This is very exciting news.
One of the things that you look at too, when you have this, broad, diverse, transient type of demographic, one of the things that best serves me to try to understand the individual is finding out their blood type. So depending on their blood type, I will treat them differently. So if you're an O blood type, then you're going to have more of a propensity to inflammatory hair loss. So you also need to get a higher level of meat. You also need to get a higher level of vegetables, lower level of sugar. Whereas an A blood type, they need to basically eliminate meat entirely, and they can eat sugar and they can do all sorts of other things, And yes, they still need iron, but they don't need it like an A blood type. And then you have a B blood type. So B blood types, a lot of Southeastern Asia is B blood type. So those individuals coming to a new environment and having a drastic shift in their diet, maybe they're eating a lot of chicken, which is a highly inflammatory food for those B blood types, or maybe they're not getting out in the sun because it's so hot. They're wearing sunscreen, they're covered up. Then they might be low in vitamin D. So again, everybody's an individual, so you have to treat them like that, and then that's how you handle their hair loss.
You really need to come to Dubai. Did you know that?
So we are actively moving into that market literally right now.
I'm really excited about this. I can't wait to tell everybody when you must let me know when you're coming.
Certainly.
Thank you so much. Have you got a ballpark of when you might be joining us?
Well, personally, I don't know when that would be, but from a product perspective, we have been blessed to have a partnership with Amazon for almost 5 years now, and Amazon AE is something that we are now populating. We are working out distribution. I will most likely be in the EU in the late summer. We're having another jumping off platform, most likely in the Netherlands. So we're moving in that direction so that we have a distribution point in the UK and obviously in the United States. Netherlands is going to be the next distribution point, but Amazon is allowing us essentially to use their platform to really get into the market in that area. So that's going to be our path of least resistance. And then additionally, the sort of Middle East version of the World Trichology Society, which is what I'm on the board of, that institution is actively expanding into Dubai and really broadening those horizons. So I would not be surprised if I'm there within the next year or so personally, but the products will be widely available most likely in the next 90 days. So DHT is the hormone that is responsible for hormonally related loss. So DHT related loss and hormonally related loss, in my opinion, are exactly the same thing. So that includes menopause, male pattern loss, hormone loss due to hormone replacement, postpartum. You even have, early on, you've got PCOS for women who are dealing with that. Unfortunately, women really got the short end of the stick when it comes to dealing with hair loss, because there's so many variables based on ovulation, where in their, whether it be pre or peri or post-menopausal. And really, honestly, it's all the same type of hair loss, but they're getting this mixed bag of what you need to do. Everybody needs to do the same thing. They just have to understand why it's happening. So that's treating it with DHT related or DHT blockers. And I could go on for days probably, but I encourage women particularly to do their research, because unfortunately 90% of physicians aren't trained well in hair loss at all, and they will come off the cuff and just be like, hey, this is androgenetic alopecia. And it, unfortunately, when they misdiagnose, it leads people down a path that they then have a very difficult time believing the right information. And I have sat in front of women who they've been to 10 dermatologists before, especially in San Diego, my San Diego office. They've seen the best physicians in, basically on the West Coast, in Hollywood, LA, and they all said the same thing, androgenetic alopecia. And I look at them and I said, what's your diet? What's your ferritin level? What's your vitamin D? I'm like, this is a vitamin D and iron issue. I'm like, you change your diet and that's all you need to do. And they're like, hold on, I just spent $10,000 on blood tests, office visits, PRP, nothing worked. And you're telling me all I have to do is eat iron? And yeah, that's it. And it inevitably works. So do your research, seek somebody out who knows what they're doing, and and be okay with seeing more than one person. Don't put it all in one basket. So sorry, I got getting on my soapbox here, but it's just how it is.
Does PRP work?
So yeah, when done properly, using the right tube and using the right procedure, it absolutely works.
Really?
I would say at least 80%, if not more, of physicians or individuals doing PRP are doing it incorrectly. They're using faulty equipment, meaning the kit they're using to actually facilitate the separation of the platelet-rich plasma and the red and white blood cells, or basically the plasma in general, is simply substandard. And some of the largest brands in the world, they're not giving you the 3 to 5 times platelet concentration that you require to really stimulate the hair follicle with the growth factors from the PRP. So that's one. Two, there's a gentleman by the name of Dr. Jeffrey Rappaport. To me, he is the best, and so I'm giving him a little bit of a plug here, the best in PRP. He invented the subdermal procedure for injecting PRP. So rather than using these little tiny Botox needles and doing these little dermal injections and 40 or 50 of them, he goes, you know what? Why don't we go deeper? Why don't we inject into the subcutaneous fat layer and allow this platelet-rich plasma to proliferate up through the subcutaneous fat layer into the dermal layer in sort of this natural state and see what happens? Well, go figure. He was right. And that is the procedure that we used in my clinics that actually worked. And most people, nowadays, if you're getting trained in the last year or two, you're probably doing that procedure. Prior to that, everyone was doing it wrong, and it was a problem. So he's got a training, I believe, a training sort of facilitation if you partner up with him. But I'm not sure how that's going. But I use his method when I recommend to people that this is what needs to be done.
Does stress, I know stress does aid hair loss, but we're thinking that it's the people moving to Dubai, they're either have little children or they're going through divorce, or it's an age thing for women, so much going on, looking after kids. How much does stress go towards hair loss?
Well, stress can physically cause hair loss. So, and by causing it, I mean it can create a trauma that triggers an inflammatory response. Right. So now that could be seborrheic dermatitis, telogen effluvium, diffuse alopecia areata, a million different things. It's just that can trigger inflammatory loss. Most of the time, what I actually see is stress is causing a physiological response that's aggravating other reasons for hair loss. So, for example, you're going through stress and your body's requirements for nutrition go up fairly dramatically. Your B vitamins are taxed. Your cortisol level spikes, so then that has an impact on your adrenal glands, which then has an impact on other nutritional factors that you need to have. Vitamin D. If you don't have enough vitamin D, stress can actually really influence your immune state, and then that will compromise how basically the hair follicle is protecting itself. You can then be open to bacteria, fungus, and other types of inflammatory scalp conditions that are actually from an external source. So stress on a very general basis, yes, can cause hair loss, but it's the physiological response that you have to compensate for. So for myself, I am under a tremendous amount of stress all the time. But I've compensated by getting all the right nutritional supplementation, by de-stressing through physical exertion, and mentally keeping myself sound by I have a little mantra that I do on a daily basis when I feel off, and that sort of realigns me. So whatever your stress compensation methods are, great. And so stress can be overcome, and it doesn't have to cause hair loss. So you have to compensate for it.
Yeah, have you got a product to show us?
I have numerous products. Let me, my number one and number two, this.
But I am absolutely, I would love for you to tell us. I've seen on Instagram that you have products.
So very basic. So number one worldwide, DHT blocker with immune support. It's a product that will block hormonally related loss internally. And this is great for men or women dealing with hormonally related loss. I have a quiz on my website that if you take the quiz, it will tell you exactly what to take based on 14 questions. The follow growth vitamin, this is a vitamin that is for nutritional loss. And it is someone who's low in vitamin D3, folate, ferritin, generally under a lot of stress that they're basically compensating for nutritionally. That's what the follow growth is for. I have another product called the Nutri-M, which is a topical application, which also compensates for stress-related loss, telogen effluvium, but predominantly it is a anti-DHT product. So if you have questions on what to take, basically taking the quiz on advancedtrichology.com is your number one thing to do. Additionally, we have an app coming out in the next 90 days. It's actually in beta currently. You download the app. You basically just go in there and answer a bunch of questions. It's the first thing that it makes you do. And it tells you this is what you need to take. And it will actually grade you on what you're taking. And we'll say, hey, you've got an A+, you're taking everything you need, be patient, your hair is going to grow back. It also has a shed tracker in there, which allows you to mark your shedding on a daily basis. So it sees where your trend is going, tracks your before and after photos and make sure you're trending in the right direction, because this is a long-term play. This isn't what a gentleman wrote. I got an email this morning from a customer that said, I didn't understand that I needed to buy 3 bottles to see that this works. And so he bought 1 bottle of DHT blocker. And I was thinking to myself, we're just going to refund you and, tell you good luck if that's kind of your mindset, because this isn't a sprint. It's a marathon, or it is a long-term endurance race to keep your hair. So don't think in a short-term capacity.
Right. Okay. And these are available online and hopefully through Amazon.ae.
So yes. So right now, Amazon.com, advancedtrichology.com, Amazon.ae. It should be again in the next 90 days. We have a single individual. Their only job is to get that populated in the next 90 days. So we will do our best to get to all the major markets at some point, but the AE is the top priority right now.
Perfect. And you believe this is going to work?
Well, it's not about believing that it works. I know that it works. It's what I have to stress to people is understand the reason for your loss. And it's just, don't pigeonhole yourself. Know that there's a lot of different products. Maybe, my product isn't for you. That's fine. Use the categories that we're allowing you to understand through my methodology to then allow you to understand what you need to take. So you can take a pharmaceutical path. You can take a nutritional path. Just treat your hair loss the way that from the inside out, and it will stop in its tracks, and you will recover usually 3 to 5 years worth of lost hair in 2 years.
Dr. William, thank you so much. Please, will you let me know? Will you get somebody to let me know when it's available so we can plug it?
Of course, absolutely.
Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, you're very welcome. You have a wonderful day and stay cool over there.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you have more clarity after watching that video about hair loss. Please ask any questions. Keep asking questions. That's the only way we're going to get the answers. So write your questions below. Please subscribe because I have some more videos about hair loss coming along.